Eater of Worlds, Abscond. Eater of Worlds despawn! What the heck? Before I begin, I'd like to say that I made a comment over 6 months ago referencing a certain YouTuber that this person guessed correctly, H.C. Bailey. That is who I reference when I come up with my commentary for my videos. I do not have a prize, unfortunately, but you do get a shout-out. Congratulations, Prometheandemise776. I wonder if there's anybody else on YouTube that remembers H.C. Bailey. With that out of the way, on with the video. Greetings everyone, and welcome to a new series called Star Plays Terraria, or Tmod Loader, depending on what I'm playing at the time. I decided to work on this as a side project to my Baldur's Gate 3 series because I feel a little deterred when it comes to trying to get through Baldur's Gate 3. So I ultimately decided to play Terraria as a side project. I first played Terraria nearly 14 years ago. Back then it was almost a completely different game. But it has retained most of its qualities from that time. But the story and the mechanics are almost completely different now. You are going to see me play on a world that I had already created previously with a character that I had already created. The reason for this is because I feel like if I were to start from scratch and play the game from the very beginning, that would take way too long. So I will go over some of the mechanics that you need to learn in order to play this game. In this game, you start out with a sword, a pickaxe, an axe, and a hammer. Your job at the very start is to build shelter for not only yourself, but for NPCs who will move into those shelters as well. For an NPC to move into a shelter, it is required that you build an outline, a back wall, a light source, or several light sources, a chair, and a table. Or you could substitute a table with a working bench. Once you have completed building shelters for NPCs, that is when you begin mining for materials. Some of the strongest materials you can find at the beginning of the game are gold and platinum. In this game, you start with 5 hearts, or should I say 100 hit points. To get more, you have to go underground to search for heart crystals. Depending on what happens, you will either encounter one of 2 bosses in your first playthrough. The first one is the King Slime. That only occurs when slime falls from the skies. The second thing you can encounter is known as the Eye of Cthulhu. That only happens naturally once you obtain 200 hit points, or 10 hearts. The hook shot. Good to know. Falls from the sky, that means there's a chance that the king slime will appear. And I forget what exactly the king slime drops, but I hear it has rare drops. In this playthrough, the King Slime was the first boss to appear. I will be showing off the successful encounters with the bosses in this playthrough. probably asking me, Star, why don't you have a deaths counter in this playthrough? Well, it's mainly because the nurse in this game, she can tell you how many times you've died. So there's no need for a death counter in this. Once I had defeated the King's Slime for the first time, not a whole lot else happened, so allow me to skip to the next clip. I have a slime ally? This next clip is over 2.5 hours long in total. The first part of it, I explored the corruption in order to try to destroy the dark orbs, in an attempt to summon the Eater of Worlds, a massive worm-like creature that considered a boss. While I was exploring the corruption, the blood moon rose, preventing me from being able to make any more progress in the corruption until I defeated all the mobs during the blood moon. According to the Terraria wiki, the blood moon has a 1 in 9 chance of occurring every night at dusk. There's an item that can drop during a blood moon from enemies called a bloody tear. From normal enemies during a blood moon, it's a 1 in 100 chance. From certain enemies, it's a 1 in 25 chance. From the groom and the bride, it's a 1 in 5 chance. There is a hard mode enemy called a Dread Nautilus that has a bloody tear drop rate of 100%. However, it can only be found if you fish during a blood moon. After the first blood moon night, I decided to return to the corruption to build my arena to prepare for the Eater of Worlds. However, as I was building the arena, a second blood moon occurred. That's literally a 1 in 18 chance that it could have happened. After destroying the third Shadow Orb, I summoned the Eater of Worlds for the first time. What my past self failed to realize after the Eater of Worlds despawned was that he went too far away from the corruption, so that's why the Eater of Worlds despawned. The Eater of Worlds will only spawn in the corruption. I just skimmed through the rest of this clip and there's not much else to note, so allow me to skip to the next clip. For the first half of this clip, I went mining for metals that I will eventually end up needing. I ended up gathering mostly tungsten, iron, and platinum. During the second half of the third clip, a blood moon appeared. One can. If you happen to not have enough hearts or defense for the Eye of Cthulhu, you can summon it at nighttime by using a suspicious-looking eye. To craft one, it requires 6 lenses and a demon or crimson altar. I was testing to see if you could summon the Eye of Cthulhu during a blood moon, and as it turns out, you actually can. The reason why you see me fail to the Eye of Cthulhu the first time is because I got a bit too overconfident. If you successfully manage to defeat the Eye of Cthulhu, it will drop Demonite. Demonite is an essential building material that allows you to craft a sword, a bow, an axe, a yo-yo, or a fishing pole. To craft even more essential items with this stuff, it requires shadow scales, which is only dropped by the Eater of Worlds. Once you have successfully defeated the Eye of Cthulhu, a Dryad will appear. She will sell you essential items for helping you to defeat the Eater of Worlds. During any time other than a blood moon, the Dryad will sell you purification powder, which enables you to transform ebon stone or crimson stone into regular stone, or anything that is infected by crimson or corruption. During a blood moon, the Dryad will sell you vile powder, which is a crafting material needed to make worm food, which enables you to summon the Eater of Worlds at any point within the corruption. During this clip, I began crafting rails so that I could travel even faster across my world. Then, I summoned the Eye of Cthulhu. After that, the King's Slime appeared when slime began falling from the sky. When I reached the eastern coast of my world, I rescued the bound fisherman. This person is important because he will give you items if you give him the fish that he requires. Once I had built separate housing for the fishermen, I summoned and defeated the Eye of Cthulhu twice. Returning to the corruption, I wanted to summon the Eater of Worlds once again. However, in the process of doing so, I came across a glowing cavern. If I recall correctly, I gathered mostly tungsten in the glowing caverns. I made my way back out of the glowing caverns to return to the corruption, so that way I could break another shadow orb to summon the Eater of Worlds. I had successfully picked up battle scales after defeating the Eater of Worlds for the first time. When I returned back to my series of buildings that I had crafted for NPCs, a goblin army decided to spawn and approach from the west. As soon as you defeat the goblin army, there's a chance that a goblin tinkerer will appear somewhere underground. To find them more easily, it requires a lifeform analyzer. At some point between the events of the 4th and 5th clips, a meteor struck the corruption. I don't know how it managed to get inside the corruption, but I imagine that's probably a bug. It takes nearly a half an hour for me to mine the entirety of the meteor, but it's all worth it because I managed to obtain certain things that I need later on. As I had traveled deeper into the corruption underground, a goblin army decided to approach from the east. Once the goblin army was defeated, I went around to crafting certain things out of the meteorite bars. With a full meteor suit, I am able to use a space gun infinitely, so that way I won't have to drain my mana. Plus, I get the additional bonus of crafting a star cannon, which you need a mini shark for. I head west to inexplicably meet a unconscious man. By clicking on Eternia Crystal, it will gift you with items that you can use to trade for certain things that will enable you to defeat enemies that come from portals. This was one of those side quests that when it first came out, I had no idea how to complete, but fortunately, that's what the internet is for. So I will find the time eventually to do research on these Eternia Crystal things. The Eternia Crystal minigame is what happens when you place Eternia Crystal holder in the center of a flat plane. In the middle of that flat plane, you have to set up defense, kind of like tower defense games. I just learned that the Eternia Crystals come from a game called Dungeon Defenders 2. It's a crossover event that occurred sometime during the previous decade. While I may have failed to save the Eternia Crystal, at least I demonstrated the basic mechanics of this mini-game. Coincidentally enough, when I returned back to the glowing caverns beneath the corruption, I finally found the Goblin Tinkerer. This person will gift you with a Tinkerer's Workshop. This specific crafting table will enable you to combine certain items that you can equip. There is a very long list of things that you can combine in a Tinkerer's Workshop, so I will not be going over that today. The Goblin Tinkerer happens to sell a useful item called Rocket Boots, which will enable you to survive long falls if you use them at the correct time. There is an item in this game called Lucky Horseshoe that will enable you to survive falls regardless of how high you jump from. With my current equipment, I was able to defeat the Eye of Cthulhu relatively easy. underground, I encountered a nymph, which is considered a rare enemy. I forget what they drop exactly, but I hear they have rare drops. The rest of the footage is just me building a elevator down to hell. Why am I building an elevator to hell, you ask? Well, it's mainly because there's a boss down there that you have to beat in order to go to hard mode. But I don't feel like revealing that until next time. I hope you enjoyed the first episode of my Terraria series, as I am working on my Baldur's Gate 3 series. As I had stated in the beginning of the video, I feel a little deterred when it comes to trying to complete Baldur's Gate 3. The reason for this is because the game has a difficulty spike in it. Even in the easiest difficulty can be challenging. I don't know when I will get back to my Baldur's Gate 3 series, but I know it will occur sometime in the near future. Well, let's just say I have a busy schedule right now. It's even busier than any of my previous busy schedules that I've had in the past. Here's a few funny moments from the recordings that I do have so far.
First you kill me, then you bring me back. You made quite the first impression. How about we try words instead of blades, It's safer for everyone.
It's what you
My
get.
name's Astarion.
Honestly, Astarion, that's what you get for deceiving me the first time. It's too good.
Out! That was uncalled for. No. And please, don't try that again unless I invite you to.
I see now why they depict Gale as a man-child in those fan depictions of him. Until the next time I upload, I hope to see you all on a paradise planet.